Murder and Memorabilia, Episode 2, The Twins Always Lie. The porcelain doll was facing the wrong way. Again, Calla Finch noticed it halfway through her Tuesday ritual, reorganizing the red shelf for energetic balance, which mostly meant relabeling things that had started to give her the creeps. The ritual had begun like every other, lights dimmed low to avoid harsh glare on the glass, a steaming mug of black tea on the counter, already half forgotten, and Baxter snoring gently by the hallway rug. She'd made it through dusting a rusted pocket watch and repositioning a mysteriously humming locket when she looked up and saw it. The porcelain twins had held their spot in the center display for years, too. Delicate sailor dolls with cracked glaze and knowing eyes. They came from the Heller estate, donated under mysterious circumstances by an estate broker who had all but sprinted out of the shop after delivering them. One twin always faced forward, the other, no matter how Calla positioned it, always turned to the wall. The backward-facing one was chipped at the collar, its left eye slightly lighter, as if time had faded its judgment. But today, both were facing the wall. Calla blinked. Once, twice, she set the cloth down and approached, slowly, clipboard tucked under one arm like a shield. "That's new," she muttered, narrowing her eyes. She leaned in, scanning the position of their hands, the bend of their little porcelain necks. And not in the good way. The red shelf wasn't supposed to change overnight. No drafts reached this room, no vibrations, no customers were allowed past the curtain. Each item was cataloged, contained, and quietly unnerving, but stable. Something had shifted again, silent and sure, while the shop slept. Behind her, Baxter let out a low, skeptical grunt. He was sprawled in his usual place by the hallway, paws twitching in a dream, or maybe in protest. One of his ears flicked, and he turned his head to watch her without lifting it. "Don't look at me like that," Calla said, tapping her pen against the glass display. They were behaving all week. She crouched and adjusted the tag below the dolls, frowning. The handwriting was crisp, black ink and her signature block letters. Item: the porcelain twins. History: linked to the Heller sisters, estranged twins who died in a boating accident. Rumor: dolls change position when someone lies nearby. Status: usually one turned, now both. Unclear if warning or agreement. She chewed the edge of her pen cap, then glanced around the dim room. The red shelf felt colder than usual, a draftless, unmoving chill that didn't belong to the temperature but to something more intangible. Dust clung to the velvet curtain like breath held too long. The glass shelves cast faint reflections of warped silhouettes that didn't match anything in view. Somewhere behind her, a floorboard creaked. No breeze, no visitors. Just the kind of day she hated. Just the kind of day that meant something was starting. The bell above the shop door jingled, sharp as a warning bell. Just as Calla was scribbling, both turned again this morning into her notebook. She didn't bother looking up. "Speak of the devil," she said under her breath. And right on cue, "Darling," called a familiar voice. "You would not believe what I just heard at the florist." Calla sighed. "Morning, Lorna." Lorna Bell breezed into the shop in a cloud of lavender perfume and layered scarves, balancing a wicker basket covered with a doily and secrets. She deposited it dramatically on the counter like she was setting down a bomb and leaned in, her expression full of breathless urgency. "Wren sold a condolence bouquet today," she said, eyes sparkling behind rhinestone-studded reading glasses. Calla didn't look up. "That's not illegal." "To someone who isn't dead." That earned a glance. "Explain." "Roxanne Heller," Lorna whispered. Calla's eyebrows lifted. "Didn't she leave town last year after the brooch debacle?" "She did." Packed up her mother's china, a couple of grudges, and stormed off in that little blue car with the cracked windshield. Said she'd never set foot in Summerwind again, and yet, Lorna raised a finger theatrically, she's back. Bought a bouquet, white lilies, with a card that read, "Sorry for your loss." Calla straightened. Loss of what? Lorna smiled like a cat with cream. That's the mystery, isn't it? Baxter snorted from under the front display. Calla could almost hear his thoughts. Here we go again. She's been asking around, Lorna continued, about the family estate, her aunt's things. Apparently there was a pair of dolls she claims were stolen. Sounds like red shelf material to me. Calla's eyes drifted toward the back room. The porcelain dolls had belonged to the Heller estate. She remembered the day the donation came in. A frantic call from a junior estate broker begging her to take the creepy twins off my hands. The woman had refused to enter the shop, sliding the box through the door like she was delivering radioactive waste. How long has she been back? Calla asked. Day and a half, Lorna replied. And already she's made 3 people cry. One of them was Wren, and you know how hard it is to rattle a woman who names orchids after serial killers. Calla didn't answer. She was already walking toward the red shelf. In the shadowed quiet of the back room, both sailor dolls had shifted again. One forward, one back, as if they were waiting for someone to lie. The next morning, the twins had reversed again. Calla stood in front of the glass shadow box, arms crossed, lips pursed. Yesterday, one forward, one back. Today, the opposite. Same doll, same shelf, same quiet air that never quite felt still. She tapped the display once, then twice, watching for movement. None came. Still, she waited an extra beat before unlocking the case. Baxter padded up beside her, nails clicking softly on the hardwood. He sniffed once, then gave a low, questioning whine, the kind that meant he didn't like what he smelled but couldn't explain why. He sat back on his haunches and stared at the dolls, as if daring them to twitch. You and me both, Calla murmured. She reached for the brass skeleton key, the one with the worn teeth and black ribbon tied around its head, and slipped it into the lock. It turned with more resistance than usual. The latch gave a sharp metallic pop that echoed in the enclosed space. She opened the case slowly, the air inside musty and still. Gently, she shifted the front-facing doll just enough to inspect its base. Still smooth, still chipped at the collar, still warm. Her fingertips recoiled instinctively. She leaned in, touched it again. The warmth was faint but unmistakable, not electrical, not environmental, personal, like the heat of a hand that had just let go. Her gaze sharpened. She picked the doll up carefully, cradling it in her palms. It almost seemed to hum against her skin. Not sound exactly, but memory, residue, a ghost of attention. That was when she noticed it. A sliver of paper, curled tight and nearly invisible, was wedged between the dolls. Calla set the sailor doll down, retrieved her tweezers from the drawer beneath the red shelf logbook, and gently teased the slip free. It was brittle at the edges, yellowed with age, and folded twice. She unfolded it. The handwriting was cramped and slightly smudged, but legible. He knows. Ask about the boat. No name, no date, no context. Just the kind of cryptic clue Summerwind specialized in. She didn't need a map to guess who he was. Cal Price didn't meet her eyes when she found him at the back of the Summerwind Hardware Co., reorganizing drill bits with unnecessary precision. The bits were already organized by size, type, and probably temperament, but he moved them around anyway, like the clink of metal could drown out something older. I was hoping this would stay buried, he muttered, not looking up. Calla leaned against the dusty counter, arms crossed. So was whoever left a note between 2 sailor dolls? Cal's shoulders slumped. He set the wrench in his hand down with deliberate care. It was an accident. Everyone said so. You don't believe that? No, he admitted, rubbing the back of his neck, because I was there. Calla didn't interrupt. Sometimes silence worked better than pressure. Baxter, lounging just inside the door, gave a soft huff-less agreement. More expectation. Cal sighed. It was Roxanne's cousin, Terry. He'd been drinking, said he just wanted to scare Roxanne's sister. Rock the boat, make her scream, but the line snapped. The boat tipped harder than he thought. Only one of them came up. Calla's voice dropped. You saw it? He nodded once. I was on the shore. I ran down the pier, but by the time I got there, it was too late. They said it was a storm. Said everyone had been wearing life jackets. Sheriff at the time was a friend of the family. Cleaned it up. He glanced toward the back storeroom, where old receipts curled in forgotten boxes. We all thought we were doing her a kindness. Roxanne, by letting it lie. Calla exhaled slowly. And now? Someone's trying to bring it all back up, he said, wiping his hands on a rag that didn't need wiping. And if that someone is Roxanne, she's going to get hurt again. Or worse, find out it was never an accident. Back at the shop, Calla pulled the original estate inventory from the storage file. A yellowed list in faded ink cataloging the Heller heirlooms. She laid it flat under the counter lamp and scanned line by line. Teacups, military medals, a child's sewing kit, a music box, and then one item was scribbled out. Porcelain Twins, unknown condition. She squinted. Underneath the scratch-out, barely visible, was a second note, in different handwriting. Do not separate them. They remember. She tapped her pen against the file. Well, that's not unsettling at all. Baxter, perched at her feet, gave a low growl that rippled through the silence like a shiver. Calla didn't disagree. The dolls hadn't moved all day. Calla stood in front of the red shelf, arms crossed, weight shifting slightly as the last of the golden afternoon light slanted through the stained glass above. It caught on the porcelain sheen of the dolls' tiny faces, painting them with fractured reds and amber. Both dolls faced outward now, watching, waiting, silent. For the first time in over a week, neither had shifted position. They simply sat, side by side, perfectly still, like they'd made peace or passed judgment. She relabeled the tag. Item, the Porcelain Twins. Rumor, turn when lied to, face forward when the truth is spoken. Status, dormant for now. Note, respond to unresolved guilt, family secrets, and confession, possibly tethered to sibling energy. Observe if paired guests provoke movement. She capped her pen, stepped back, and studied them one last time before closing the case. The room felt unusually still, like a held breath. Not oppressive exactly, just suspended. Like the dolls were waiting for something else to finish settling. Baxter gave a grunt of approval and flopped down beside the red shelf, the way he always did when a mystery was finished, even if the town didn't know it yet. He let out a long sigh and rested his chin on his paws, eyes still angled toward the dolls like he wasn't entirely convinced. Outside, dusk settled over Summerwind like a shawl. Long shadows stretched across the square, soft and stretching, cloaking the edges of the cobblestones in sepia. Across the street, Roxanne Heller stepped out of Bloom and Doom with a small bouquet of forget-me-nots and one white rose. No lilies this time. No grief she couldn't name. She caught Calla's eye through the window and gave a small nod. Not a thank you, not quite, just an acknowledgement between two women who knew what it meant to carry ghosts. Calla nodded back, then turned as the bell above the door jingled once more. Juniper and Rex spilled in, mid-argument with the chaotic energy of a late-day conspiracy. Rex was clutching a snack-sized bag of gummy bats. Juniper had what looked like a folded map of ley lines drawn in glitter pen. "I'm telling you," Juniper said. "They moved because the room was full of unresolved feminine energy." "Or maybe," Rex said, pulling out his humming deck of bones, "they're just haunted, like everything else in here." Calla didn't look up. No touching the dolls. "We weren't going to," Juniper said, already halfway to the red shelf. "They're watching," Calla added dryly. "You touch 'em, and you're sleeping with one eye open." Juniper froze. Rex reconsidered. Baxter thumped his tail once, warning or encouragement, it was hard to say. The twins stayed still. Ella dimmed the shop lights, letting the golden glow slip into soft shadow, and moved to draw the red velvet curtain closed for the night. The air had gone still, the way it always did, just before something settled. She paused. Just for a second, she could have sworn one of the dolls had shifted the tiniest bit. Or maybe it was just the light. Either way, she didn't check. Some truths were better left undisturbed, at least until morning. Thank you for listening. Please visit me at winvalentine.com to stay up to date. Please subscribe, leave a comment, and review.